Hi everyone, my name is Erin Elizabeth Wamberg. Thank you so much for choosing to be here with me today. Welcome back if you've been here before, and welcome if you are new here. Today we're talking about this idea that what you learn while you're waiting for something is just as important as what you're waiting for. So this one can be a little annoying because as humans, we have this ego, we have this desire, we have this like, I thought of it and I want it now, so where is it type of energy, right? But as we know, we are on God's timing, we're on divine timing, we are not on our own timeline, right? So part of that includes being patient with what we desire to come into our life. And that can include, no matter how bad we really want it, or, I really want this thing to happen, or when is this going to happen? It doesn't matter because, again, God's time, not our time. And so while we're waiting for things, sometimes we can get really like, where is it? I just want it to be here. I'm tired of waiting. We can get that type of energy. And what actually is happening is there's a spiritual lesson in there for us if we are open and willing to look at that for ourselves. So something to understand here is if we got everything we wanted the second we got it, I mean, first of all, that would be out of control. We wouldn't know how to handle everything. And because we're so fickle as humans, we think we want this one thing that's just kind of impulsive. But do I actually want that long term? Okay, so there's that. But second of all, so many things we think we're ready for, we actually wouldn't be a match for it until like if it came earlier, right? So just think about how many things in your life where once it finally happened or once you were finally ready, you were like, wow, thank God that wasn't sooner. Thank God it wasn't before this other thing happened. Thank God it wasn't before I learned whatever this particular thing about myself. So this is a lot of energy of just being it's a lot of surrender, a lot of faith, a lot of trust, and just being honest of just like, well, I know I'm on God's time and not my time. So how can I ease into feeling relaxed and trustworthy with that? Okay, and so maybe you're saying, well, there wasn't a time that I wanted it to come. I always wanted everything to be sooner than it was. There's never been an instance in my life where it was. I'm glad it came later than it did. Which, like, okay, but what if that's true? Let's say, for example, maybe it needed to take that long of time so you wouldn't take it for granted once it came, right? We learn through contrasting experiences on earth. And so going without something for a certain amount of time can really give us like, okay, this is what it feels like without that. You can feel your own energy. You can kind of see what's going on instead of just immediately filling the gap with like, oh, here's the next new thing, right? The next job, the next relationship, the next house, the next this, the next that, whatever. So like this next thing that's happening, or I meet my particular goal professionally, or I hit this other goal with my fitness, right? So any and all of that actually, sometimes when we feel what it's like to not have that, that's actually a beautiful contrasting experience for us to then be like, okay, well, now I'm not going to take it for granted now that it's here because I felt what it feels like to not have it for so long, that I have a deeper gratitude for it. Because I remember like I used to have to pray for this thing to come from me, right? Because easy come, easy go. So sometimes if we go through things and we learn and we're like, okay, I'm glad, glad it's here now. Don't want to go back to without it, right? Doesn't mean we're glorifying a hard time. But, when we do have that reference point, I'm just, oh, I remember before I had it and now I do have this thing, and again, part of that is it teaches us that not only that we don't take it for granted, but just a reminder like happiness is an inside job, feeling connected and peaceful and whole is an inside job. So it's like, can you learn how to feel um can you feel peaceful, can you feel complete, can you feel whole already, and then this thing coming is just going to be a lovely addition to your life, right? So it's not this thing of, oh, I never have to, feel I don't need anything ever again, right? We're on earth to grow and expand on the soul level. But when we are able to know that these things are just additions to like feeling whole and sovereign and complete within myself, then like that's the sweet spot we want to get. Easier said than done, but that's, the goal of feeling complete inside. And then some other reasons, some other examples of things you could learn that what while you're waiting, like only you know what the lesson is for you, and obviously it's going to be different for everyone. So just take what resonates. These are just some examples, some ideas that maybe you know could be the reason for you, but we're all here on our own paths again, so what the truth is for you. But so something else could be that maybe you found a new inner strength, maybe you had to rely on yourself in a way you never had to before, which can be very annoying, and there's Mother Teresa has the sayings like, I know God believes that I can handle all this, but I wish God didn't trust me so much sometimes, right? So it's like, I don't want to be strong. I don't want to go through this, but so if we stick with it, sometimes we do get to the other side and realize that, okay, I did have this inner strength. I didn't give up on myself. I did one day at a time, one step at a time. I crawled through the desert. I made it to the other side. So that's one thing you could learn in the meantime, is just like your inner strength to get through something. Maybe you got to work on something else in the meantime. So, let's say you're waiting for this one particular thing, but then you're like, oh, well, now I have some time to free up while I'm waiting for my next job or my next partner or my next whatever, that like I get to deepen my relationship with myself, or I get to explore this hobby I wanted to explore. Or, we focus so much on what's missing, we can miss what we have right in front of us. And that could even be some free time. It could be some time to explore something new. I mean, again, like always, take it how it resonates, but you could have this freed up time in your life that maybe you didn't have before. Another one, I mentioned this a little bit, but you got to practice feeling peaceful in the meantime, right? So a lot of times we aren't given what we want immediately because we are too attached to it, and we decide like, I can only be happy when this. I have a video called Case of the When I Haves, and this is that idea that like, well, once I get the job, then I'll be whole and complete. Once I have my partner, then I'll be whole and complete. Once I have, and again, we're not negating that really wonderful, amazing things definitely add to your life. Like, that's very real. Okay, I'm not gonna pretend like it doesn't happen. But when you are making that thing, like you make it special in the way that it's so important that you can't access any feelings of peace or happiness or joy right now, then that's, sometimes we don't get it because we're so dependent on it that it's like kind of can repel it a little bit. So just knowing, can I find peace in the meantime? Even though I've been waiting this amount of time, can I still find peace again, even though it's so annoying, I don't want to do it, right? And then going along with that one is, developing a deeper reliance on God than we had before. There's a saying that a calamity that pushes you closer to God is more beneficial than a blessing that takes you away from God. And so just knowing that, developing faith and trust and relying on God in a new way is actually a very, very wonderful, amazing, beneficial moment of going through hard times. And again, we're not going to like glorify hard times or, these things in life, but we are life on life's terms. This is the nature of earth realm, to be tested, to go through things that we wouldn't necessarily choose for ourselves. And so with that, as we become more and more spiritually fit, it's up to us to be able to be like, okay, as I, just think about like, if you're working out, okay, I can run 1 mile, then I can run 5 miles, then I can run 10 miles, right? Same thing with your spiritual fitness. Like, okay, I can have faith in God when, I have X, Y, and Z thing, but what about when I'm waiting for the next one? Or what about when I'm waiting for this thing? Or what about when I'm waiting for that? When we have all these things going on and some of these things get taken away that we didn't realize we were relying on, and no judgment, it's human nature to do that. But that gives us a chance to develop some faith and trust in God, in our higher power, in a way that we hadn't before. And so again, just like faith and trust is one of those things that can be so annoying because you only get better at them by practicing them, and you only practice them from being uncomfortable and having to develop faith and trust. So again, if that's annoying, that's just, again, part of it, and then going along with that is, if you don't have these things that maybe you think are really attached to your identity or your worth or all of that, maybe you get to see that you have value and worth inherently, even if you don't have the thing you're waiting for, right? So a lot of us can really get our identity tied into our job or into being someone's partner or into, whatever it is for you. But, being able to have like the certain body identification. But when we don't have those things in our lives and we didn't realize how subconsciously we had been tying ourselves and our worth to those, that can make us feel really confused and upset, because it's like, oh, well, I didn't mean to attach myself in that way. And sometimes we don't know until those things aren't part of our lives or our realm anymore, right? So just understanding that you do have value, you do have worth, you are inherently worthy and valuable just because you are alive, no matter what you've been socialized or programmed into, telling you that you need to be accomplishing or doing in order to have value or worth, right? So just recognize that, like, okay, even though, I'm I don't have this particular thing in my life, or I haven't met this particular goal, or I, whatever, right? This is again more of like the when I haves, like finding that fine line between working towards your goals and working towards what you want, but also knowing that you have inherent value and worth no matter, even if you never did anything again in your life, right? Never accomplished anything again in your life, right? So kind of like separating yourself from that capitalistic identity self. So if you want to, something I can suggest for if you want to get clear about what you learn, what am I supposed to be learning while I'm waiting, right? This is the ego can really block a lot of the answers with this because we don't want to wait. It's not in our human nature. We just want it. We want it now, right? But if you want to journal about it, you can just write the question, what am I learning about myself or in general at this time? What have I attached to the thing that I'm waiting for? Or you can say, like, if I were writing to myself from God, from my higher power, from an angel, a spirit guide, whatever, what would I tell myself I'm learning in this moment? And again, it doesn't mean that we're glorifying this, that we want it to keep happening, that we want you to wait forever, right? We're not doing any of that. But this is an opportunity to turn inward and kind of let go and, loosen the grip a little bit on, I need this thing, I need it now, or else I'm never going to feel whole and complete, right? And so, it's like that saying, suffering ends when meaning begins, right? So if we can just learn, okay, I'm just learning how to have balance in my life. I'm learning how to find peace in my day-to-day moments. I'm learning how to not take things I have for granted anymore, right? It's like once you realize that what's going on, then you can kind of breathe and let go. And then again, strengthen your faith and trust in what God is bringing to you. Okay, that's everything I have for you today. Thank you so much for choosing to be here with me today. If you ever want any more information about me, all that is linked below. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day.